family buildings.
All right, okay, we're about to start the meeting shortly. We're waiting for a couple of more people to come. But we should be starting soon. Anna Reyes has raised her hand, and Indiana Porter.
Indiana's a board member.
Okay.
Yeah, Indiana is
needs
a
to be
board member.
promoted. And I was asking if we'd started, and I just answered that question.
Oh, good, okay. But
I don't know if I can promote Indiana.
shouldn't I be able to do that
Yes,
here?
you should.
I'm just gonna update, we're talking about more than book 197. And I'm happy to share the presentation after.
Yeah, that will be great.
Attendees.
Okay, White, oh,
Under
Oh,
the-
I see. Oh.
Mhm.
so just hit allow.
No, that button right there.
This
that
one?
mhm. It promotes panelists. There you go. In the panelist list. In the other tabs, Steve.
Thank
Can
you.
Go under my name and promote me to co-host.
And I'm doing that here.
Mhm.
Mm,
So it should be,
Yesterday I showed you.
oh, I guess it's not there. Okay, never mind. Don't worry about that part.
It's still, the evangelism is incredible, the meetings are adventures.
There should be a way to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna check the other. I just like to be able to keep an eye on the Zoom.
Oh, Carmen is with us. Oh, that's great. Okay, so we actually have 6 committee members. It says the projector is the co-host.
Yeah, maybe there can be more than a certain amount. I don't know. It needs to be able to just make myself one, but
Certain amount of what?
co-hosts.
Oh,
Oh, we won't worry about it. I don't really need it. It's fine.
Jody is going to be absent. And,
you mean excused or absent?
okay, good, just absent. And but and then include Carmen as being
Present.
present. All right, so we're okay. We're still on hold, waiting for members of the Housing and Human Services Committee to join us.
Does anyone have like a charger for iPhone?
I do not.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, worse, I have 2 of them.
I'm on like 20% and there's a disaster
Actually,
happening.
one I'd like to give you is a fairly short cord.
That's fine. I'm just gonna leave it to charge and
Good, that's a good idea to keep her on a short cord.
really,
Steve, what you gotta worry about is if she says that back to you.
oh, I have to find USB somewhere.
Maybe first then.
Jake, did you send it?
All right. All right, we just got the 2-minute warning. We're going to start in just a couple of minutes.
Thanks.
Came to love small town America with that. I had a charger. I was on a campaign bus. The charger went bad, so I had to find in a little tiny town a charger. I immediately went to New York and said, well, there goes $30. $5.99.
I should have got like 2.
Explain to me why that is the participant list up there. Seems to be a very mixed list for me.
Well, this is a joint committee meeting.
Yeah, but there are some of us who aren't on there. They're wondering how it's all working.
What?
I think those are the virtual people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, this
So
is,
those are the virtual.
yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
Let-
Virtual.
I'd put your name up there if I could.
Yeah, no, that,
Oh, wait a minute, Jacob's name.
I'm on the Zoom.
yeah, he's,
Cause I lurk in the Zoom to make sure that things are running smoothly.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah, he's like, it's like being ambidextrous.
Wouldn't it be better to be dexterous?
No,
I'd
no,
settle for that.
no, nowadays,
By Jack. No, it's there.
all righty. Are we expecting anyone else?
No,
Oh, okay.
that's it. Sorry. Just letting the people on the housing call, letting them know that they're here to join this link.
All right, very good. Well, I think we have at least a couple of your members on the
Yes.
remotely.
Mhm, yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're going to call this meeting to order. Thank you for your patience. This is an unusual meeting since it's a joint meeting of two committees of the Community Board, Community Board 12 Manhattan, the Health and Environment Committee, and the Housing and Human Services Committee.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Did I say something inappropriate?
This time I got you, Steve.
I don't, should I apologize?
Or is it from there?
I don't know. It's still being recorded to YouTube, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, okay, very good. All right, so
Downloading the meetings.
Okay, so, so if I let me introduce myself. I'm the chair of the Health and Environment Committee. My name is Steve Simon, joined by my assistant chair, Rosie Kamada, and fellow committee members, Jacob Banis, Heidi Guzman, Richard Allman, and in the virtual sphere, we have Carmen Paulino. And happy that we were able to arrange this joint meeting with the Housing and Human Services Committee. And want to introduce the chair of that committee, Mariel Ali. You want to introduce your members?
Sure, thanks, Steve. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Mariel Ali and Chair of the Housing and Human Services Committee. I normally let HHS members introduce themselves, so Sonia, maybe over to you because you're here, and then Freddie, and then our members online.
Sonia Figueroa Pagan, glad to be here this evening.
Hi, thank you for having us, Radia Barnes.
And then online, we have Indiana and Tanisha. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, Indiana Porta. Glad to be here.
Hello, Tanisha Grant. Glad to be here too.
Okay, very good. All right, so we have both committees together. Want everyone to note that we're all getting along. It's an amicable meeting.
Yes.
We're all joining together to talk about the implementation of Local Law 97, which is the aim of which is to reduce emissions from buildings throughout New York City. And pleased that we're going to have a presentation by Christina Curry, an account manager with an organization called the New York City Accelerator. And I'm sure that as part of her presentation, she will explain to us what the New York City Accelerator is.
I will do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let me turn it over to you, and and then we'll ask questions and after you do your presentation.
Perfect. So as Steve said, I'm Christina Curry with the New York City Accelerator. I'm one of the account managers. And the people online hear me okay? I get like a thumbs up. Okay, cool.
We can.
Okay, great, fantastic, thank you. So yeah, thank you all for being here. We appreciate, being invited out to talk to people. And I hear you guys are mostly multifamily, so I'll try to tailor my presentation more to that sphere of things. So this is everything we're gonna go over. I'm gonna talk about what the accelerator is, the big question, I'm sure. Then a little bit about the Climate Mobilization Act and where some of these local laws came from, the incentives that are available in the city for different types of buildings, and then the financing assistance that our program can offer. So the accelerator, it's a lot of words. I don't make these slides. The accelerator, we are a free program through the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. And essentially, we act as sort of advisors or dot connectors, I like to say, where if you kind of don't know where to turn, you can come to us and we can kind of point you in the right direction if we don't have an answer, and help you put together this sort of team to make sure that you are in compliance with local laws and explain them so that they, make sense to you and connect you with incentives so you don't miss any free money. That's important. And getting all that together, we also offer no cost trainings. If there's a certain like building operator or building manager that is interested in getting those free trainings, we do offer that as well. And we can connect you directly with contractors who do the type of work that you are seeking to be done. And we can also help you with the application process for incentives and financing, which can be a big hurdle for a lot of people. So we take the time to help you guys out with that. And like I said, totally free. We're there for the long haul. So it's not like a one-off meeting. You can come back to us as many times as you need to.
So I'm sorry, so you are city employees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is a program out of the mayor's office,
Okay.
but most of these local
So-
laws are made and enforced by DOB, Department of Buildings.
So you're not some kind of quack, fly-by-night organization.
No,
You're-
we
you're-
are with the city.
You're a real city agency. Very
It's
good.
not with DOB,
Okay.
or not DOB. But-
Okay,
Yeah, that's the differentiation there from DOB.
no, we're not casting aspersions on DOB. Okay,
I don't know, some people do.
Okay.
That's fine, please don't yell at me.
Okay.
So the accelerator we're available for all privately owned buildings over 5,000 square feet. Most of these local laws only apply to buildings over 25,000 square feet, but we are available to assist smaller buildings as well with just making energy efficiency upgrades that they're interested in. And anything smaller than that, we could refer to partner organizations that are spread out throughout the city, so depending on the borough. So pretty much, yeah, you just get in contact with us. So it'd either be, I'm one of the account managers, there are about like 15 of us. Valerie is one of them, that OC Century knows. So we have quite a few, and they'll walk you through everything for your specific building, and we do everything kind of one-on-one based on these specific buildings, because they're all so different. And we give you objective advice, so we are completely vendor agnostic, like if we'll give you contractors, we won't pick one for you, it's all you, but we are there to kind of help in making sure that everything is, up to code, that they have certain certifications and are responsive and all those things, and include the right incentives. So as I said, it's free, and you're not, you meet with me once, I might email you again a couple times, but I'm not gonna like blow up your phone, I promise. Unless there's some terrible local law that I really need to answer me about. But for the most part, there's no catch, there's no cost, no consent. This is kind of just what I went through, but it's a nice little graphic, just kind of goes, just kind of to go through step by step. So we clarify the requirements for your building for local law 97. We look at your fire benchmarking data and look at where you currently stand. Then we help you go figure out which pathway. So for multifamily, there are a couple different pathways for affordable housing, depending on the percentage and what kind of affordable housing it is, and I'll show that later. But we'll help you kind of determine where you fall for that. And then from there, if you identify certain projects that you need to do, we help you identify the financing and incentive that's relevant and get that team together with service providers to get that work done for you. And then we just kind of help you through whenever you need us. So if you come in and let us know how the projects are going, if you hit any, roadblocks, let us know. We can do the best that we can to help you get through that. This is your district, more or less. We did a presentation for City Council District 10 a couple months ago. And I know it's not a perfect overlap, but
it's reasonably close.
pretty close. So this is the breakdown for this. So currently with the accelerator, there are 866 active projects across 496 buildings in the City Council District. And of those engaged buildings, 87% of them are covered by Local Law 97. So that's a good amount of who we've been working with so far. The most common types of projects are related to Local Law 97 compliance. Lighting, building envelope, domestic hot water, and distributed generation, which is like solar panels and energy and things like that. 38% of those projects, of the active projects, are complete. So the Climate Mobilization Act was a big old law package passed in 2019 that covered a lot of these energy-related local laws that we're talking about today. The goals broadly were 40% emissions reduction by 2030 and an 80% reduction in emissions by 2050. So they're very ambitious goals that we're working very hard to, that's why the accelerator exists, to try to help get us to those goals. And one of those The big part of that was local law 97, which I don't think is my next slide, but I will get to that. This is kind of the big, all the local laws kind of on one sheet, one slide. So the greener, greater buildings plan came out in 2009, covered some of the laws you're probably familiar with. That's the benchmarking requirement, or the annual benchmarking requirement. Buildings over 50,000 square feet have to do an energy audit and retro commissioning every 10 years. And then based on their block number and the building block code. And then local law 88 was passed in 2009, but is just being enacted and then will be due May 1st of 2025. I will cover that as well. And the Privatization Act, a bunch of other ones. 33 is the grades. That's connected to benchmarking. Based on your benchmarking, you post a grade in your window. That's Energy Star's kind of proprietary formula, but they use the energy usage intensity of the building and compare it to other similar buildings to see where you stand in comparison. 92 and 94 is if you do any major roof replacement, you have to put a green roof or solar on it. It's not as relevant for existing buildings. PACE is a clean energy, PACE financing is something we work with. That is a loan program that goes to your property taxes. That's kind of a later down the line, not so important today. And then 97, the big kicker, limits on greenhouse gas emissions. And 154, again, that's for the building. So I'm gonna kind of skip over that for now. If you have any other questions, you can definitely contact us about it. So 88, as I said, is kind of coming to fruition this year, and the report will be due May 1st of 2025. But what Local Law 88 covers is that buildings over 25,000 square feet. So pretty much if you have to do Local Law 97, you have to do 88, essentially, except houses of worship, not a multifamily house. But you would be required to upgrade lighting to comply with the Energy Conservation Code. This is worded somewhat incorrectly, and I'll clarify that in a second. But if you've had any lighting upgrades since July 1st of 2010, the lighting would have to be up to the Energy Conservation Code that was in place at the time of installation. So I'll show a little visual there because I know that's kind of a mouthful. But with that, there's also a requirement for any non-residential tenant spaces. So like, let's say you have a first floor commercial, if it's over 5,000 square feet, it would need to be sub-metered. Most buildings have that already, but it's just kind of getting the attestation that that is in fact the case. And the attestation letter that certifies your compliance must be submitted to the Department of Buildings by May 1st. And it must be attestation letter must be completed by either a registered design professional, which as it said is a professional engineer or registered architect in the state of New York, a licensed master electrician or a licensed special electrician. You'll see this registered design professional come up again for Local 197. You're welcome to have, a lot of people have the same contractor, both attestation letters, especially if you're affordable housing, since this is kind of a requirement for the affordable housing pathway for 97 as well. So this is the visual, and this is where I'm going to kind of awkwardly talk with my hands. So I'll use my mouse, I guess, so people can see. Is my mouse even there? Okay, it's a little slow. But essentially, if your lighting was installed any point after July 1st, 2010, then as long as it was up to the code at that time. So let's say you got your lights, your lights updated in 2012. It would have to be up to the code that was in place on December 28th, 2010. So if that's the case now, you do not have to make any upgrades. If lighting has not been upgraded at all or is not up to code at the time it was installed, you will need to make upgrades for it to match the 2020 Energy Conservation Code.
Right, but you still have to send a letter
Yes.
by,
no matter what,
okay,
there
so
will
that's
be a report.
important, right?
Yes. So whether you're in compliance or not for this and 97, a report will need to be submitted by May 1st, 2025. And then this is another local law that's also kind of come to fruition pretty recently. So as of this past summer, no new permits for number 4 oil burners will be issued from the Department of Buildings or DEP. And so no new permits will be submitted, which essentially means these are tri-annual permits. So essentially that means by July 1st, 2027, there will be no number 4 fuel oil usage in New York City buildings.
Okay.
So this is, very important. A lot of people's, expiration dates are coming up right in the next year or so. So this is important to keep an eye out for, and we're happy to help you, figure out which of these solutions would be best for you with the, depending on the timeline and the cost and.
Was that moved up by 3 years?
Yes, I didn't know that. It was 2030.
Yeah.
And it moved up to 2027.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this was a curveball for a lot of people to kind of came out of nowhere. So,
Yeah,
So that's good, but it's, okay, that's
yeah, it pushes
good.
the timeline.
Yeah.
that's actually pretty big news.
Yes and no.
Yeah,
Because-
this is important. We've been doing a lot of outreach for this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the question in regards to that, what the question is, that goes by the boiler recertification. Meaning, if your boiler need to be recertified by 2026, for example, they will not certify you for number 4 oil anymore.
Right.
So that's important because certification is 3 years. That means that by 2025-ish, technically speaking, you start the phase out.
Right.
So
Some buildings have already had theirs expire.
Right.
Unfortunately, like July 15th of 2024, and they were like, whoa. But yeah, so then essentially by July 1st, 2027, they'll all have been.
Out
they'll have been
already.
phased out, yeah.
Okay, all right, so I get it. Okay,
So
that's
keep an eye
much
on that.
better.
We can look at your boiler permit expiration date on DEP. And let you know if you know, this is a concern, or if you're already switched, we can get you off our list so we don't keep calling you.
Yeah, now, if I remember correctly, if I could interrupt for a moment, the number 4 oil, I think, is used by the smaller buildings. Don't the larger buildings use number 2?
No. Most building used to use number 6,
Yeah,
and once that was outlawed,
Yeah.
they moved to 4 because you don't have to do anything, just move to 4. Moving to 2 will require cleaning, which is
Yeah.
minor, but most buildings did not do that. It's unfortunate. But it's unfortunate, I'm gonna,
Okay, so yeah, so some of the solutions to this are switching to number 2, but that does require a little more work than the number
Right.
6 to number 4 transition.
Yeah.
But it is, you know, the quickest in this case.
Mhm.
Oil to gas conversion is a secondary option. This does help with like local 197 scores. You know, natural gas produces less carbon emissions than fuel oil number 2. So that may be something to consider if you have a little more time and if it's possible, given where you're located. And then district steam is a possibility depending on also where you're located, or you can go straight to electrification. A big old jump if you want to.
so in terms of gas, that's actually, the cost is astronomical for one, and it's only gonna get you to 2030.
Yeah.
So for the 6 years, even if you start more money, for 6 years, the cost, it doesn't worth doing that for only 6 years, my point. Because by 2030, you're again not in compliance again. So I don't know why is it still,
Natural gas.
right, because the city will stop giving permits for natural gas by 2026.
I think that's only for new buildings, for like reconstruction.
Right. But by 2030, the buildings that now run on natural gas will not be in compliance.
all across the board.
I have
Not-
that deadline. I think that's for a different like subsector of buildings. I don't think
It's-
that's for all of them.
This is, okay,
I can
well,
look into it more and get back to
Yeah,
you guys.
later.
Yeah.
Just double check, but that, I haven't heard that, at least that's not set in stone. Natural gas is expected to be, you know, around, until at least 2050, but newer buildings are not allowed to include natural gas, so newer buildings have to be electrified. And that might be the case also if you're doing like a big construction or gutting the building.
meaning like for capital, if you're doing capital improvements on your existing building.
No, it's like if you fully like gut it.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. You can't have a new.
Yeah, there's a certain
Okay,
threshold
okay.
that's considered like construction, but it's
Right.
not like
Yeah.
any of this work, like the law 11 capital improvements won't do that. It's just literally if you've got the whole building
Okay,
and start over. And if you violate this law, there is a potential for $10,000 in penalties.
annual penalty for 10,000? That's cheap.
For a penalty?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to pay it, you know, that's your prerogative. It's your prerogative. That's kind of where we, you know, but it is good to know. If, you know, especially if you run out of time, like if you see this and you're like, I just don't have time to do that for my permit
Mhm.
expires, you may have to pay that penalty. It's not the end of the world, right? But not ideal for a lot of people, so. We just like to flag that. Moving on from that, now we're in the big one, local 97. So this is what it looks like, again, this is City Council District 10, but fairly close. Geographically, so. I need my notes here. So there are 254 buildings in City Council District 10 that are required to begin local law 97 compliance on January 1st, 2024. There are a ton of other properties, 616, that will be following this different affordable housing pathway that I mentioned earlier. And we'll also discuss more in depth later, later, it all comes in a circle. About 2/3 of these buildings are multifamily, as we said, followed by commercial buildings and then institutional. So again, vast majority here is multifamily, so that's what I'll kind of focus on.
Now, NYCHA is exempt from all of that, right?
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
But the majority of buildings, about 77% are in compliance with the first compliance period, which is great, but there are about 50 properties that are above their emissions limit. Which is a little below the city overall rating. The city is about, like the city overall, about 90% of buildings are in compliance. So it's a little below that, but also 50 buildings, so, you know.
So 50 buildings in our district are not in compliance by the 2024 measure
Based on the estimated.
of
estimations
2024.
of their fire
Okay.
benchmark date for 2024 to 2029, yeah. And again, that refreshes, like
How many
it
buildings?
refreshes annually, so you won't have the exact same penalty for all 5 years.
Right. Yeah, wait, okay.
And then for 2030 to 2034, only 26% of buildings are in compliance. So now is kind of the time to start thinking to that next compliance period. So overall, local law 97, there are 2 articles, and I'll refer to them as 320 and 321. If you forget what I'm talking about, just stop me and let me know. Article 320 refers to market rate buildings that are over 25,000 square feet. And they kind of follow like the traditional pathway. So essentially you need to be below whatever the threshold is for your building. The first limit is the first 5 years of 2024 to 2029. The second, it drops quite significantly, is from 2030 to 2034. And then it just keeps dropping. I mean, where's my thing? There it is. Keeps dropping until 2050, which is at 0, which we're expected to reach carbon neutrality. That doesn't mean you will not use any energy in your building. Just the expected thing is that they'll be greening the grid and there won't be any emissions associated with that energy use. That's sort of the expectation. We'll see what happens. But that's the point of the law. So as I said, most of the city, 89% of properties are projected to meet 2024 to 2029 limits. And that drops to 63% in 2030 to 2034. And this Article 320 covers commercial buildings, market rate multifamily, institutional buildings, so pretty much everything but affordable housing and houses of worship. Article 321 covers affordable housing and houses of worship. So again, same kind of criteria as that affordable housing buildings over 25,000 square feet have varying requirements. For Article 321 specifically, you can either meet the 2030 emissions limit, be below that threshold that's given now, which is not, not feasible for many buildings at this point, or you can implement the prescriptive energy conservation measures, which is referred to as the prescriptive pathway. And I'll show what those are, but those are all pretty easy measures to do. Like it's nothing too crazy. It's all kind of retrofit measures, just like making sure everything in your building is kind of performing at peak efficiency based on what you have.
I'm so sorry. I have a question. Can you please go back to the previous slide? It's just a clarifying question. So when you talk about under existing concessions, 89% of the properties are projected to meet the 2024 to 2029 limits. And then I guess like those same buildings in the 2030 to 2034 period will need to like further reduce their emissions. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then is the 63%, it's 63% of like the initial total of buildings, correct?
Yes, so this is considering the 89%, 63% are of all buildings in the city.
Okay, and
And
then,
based on benchmarking data that that the buildings have been submitting.
okay, thank you. And then one more clarifying question. What is the reason why not 89% of buildings would need to meet the 2030 to 2034 limits?
Sorry, I don't.
No, if I understand correctly, what Christina is saying is that in the current situation right now, 89% of the properties are meeting the limits that are required during the 2024-2029 period. 63% of the buildings have gone beyond that requirement. So So, and they're already meeting the limits required during the 2030 to 2034 period. So, 63 is a subset of the 89.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Great, okay, any other questions while I'm on this slide?
No.
So this is kind of where the numbers come from, for market rate buildings at least, so you must, show compliance with the annual greenhouse gas emissions limit, and you must file these reports annually beginning May 1st, 2025. Again, this is market rate building, so if it's portable building, it's a little bit of a different situation, but I will clarify that. And these reports must be certified by a registered design professional, as I mentioned before, which is a registered architect or a professional engineer in the state of New York. And it will be filed thereon annually by May 1st of the following year. So it's the same due date as benchmarking. So it's kind of keep that, that date in mind, May 1st, 2025. But it's based on the calendar year 2024, emissions. The penalties slash threshold is calculated by the gross floor area of the building, the energy use, if that's over that threshold, and the type of building that it is. So thresholds vary based on the use of the building. So a hospital has a much higher expected energy use than like a multifamily property. So it varies based on what the building is used for. And that's where the threshold comes from. And then how your energy use compares to that threshold is where the penalties come from. The penalties are calculated through $268 per metric ton of CO2 over the limit. And this is just some examples. This is probably more helpful when I share the slides too. I won't go through all of these. These are just some examples of projects that you could do to reach these 2030 limits. So like if you're slightly above, you can do some of these smaller measures. If you have a lot to do, like if there's a big gap there are some, bigger projects to get there. And then the good faith effort is if you are not in compliance with 2024 to 2029 threshold, there are two ways to go through this. So either you prove that there was an unexpected or unforeseeable event, due to like an act of God, like a fire, flood, something like that, that's preventing you from doing this work, or you prove that you've been doing your best and it's a good faith effort. So that requires that these three are definitely done. Sorry, people online. That these three on the left are definitely done. Meaning that you submit your emissions report, you've done your benchmarking, and that lighting rule that I talked about is complete. So that's kind of the primary thing right now, is that needs to be done by the end of the year. So if your lighting is not up to code, it doesn't take long to do that work, right? But contractors are kind of backed up, things like that. And there are a couple options for how to show that you're doing your best. So the most common one of these is the decarbonization plan, which is an energy audit. At this point, there's not a ton of time to get this done, frankly. So I don't know why I'm still showing this slide, but that's what it is. Or if you have one recently, if you have to do local 87. But then this pretty much demonstrates a long-term plan that you have for reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So this is like a long-term plan, and you have to have, all of it there, the timeline, the financing, and the expected reduction to meet your goals from here on out.
Do you have data as to how many buildings in our district do not comply with local law 84 and 87?
I don't have the 84 and 87 data.
Okay.
On me.
Because I think that a lot of landlords don't know about that. Don't know about the energy audit for sure, because it's just only every 10 years. It's and definitely the benchmarking, even though it's a yearly thing, a lot of buildings probably don't know about it. And so, okay, I'm gonna stop here. We're gonna get to the questions later.
Yeah, don't worry about it. There's a special, like us for local law 84 that I can share their information with you. They are really, like all they do, like a lot of local law, they do 84 all day, all the time. So they should have the answers to that and know who's done compliance. Now I'll get to the part about affordable housing buildings. So this is a very fun little infographic that is a little blurry on the screen. So I am so sorry about that. But Article 321, which is what I mentioned with the prescriptive pathway and or meeting 2030 limits, This one is if over 35% of units are subject to rent regulation, or if it's an HTFC co-op, or has more than one unit in a federal project-based housing program, so that's section 8, 811, or participates in the NYCHA PACT program. So all, if it meets any of those requirements, you submit a one-time report proving that either all these 13 things are done, or you're below the 2030 limit, and you're done. No matter where your emissions fall, if those 13 things are done, you're good to go. And so this is a big difference. The other two are just sort of delayed versions of Article 320. So that's if you have more than one rent regulated unit, but not more than 35, you get a delay until 2026. So that first report would not be due until May 1st of 2027. So it buys you a couple of years. The 2035 pathway is if you're a Mitchell-Lama building with no units that participate in the federal project-based housing program, or you have less than 35% rent regulated units and 1+ unit that are income restricted through certain loans, grants, property tax benefits, or property disposition programs. I'm only reading it all because it's blurry on the screen, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry. But that would give you the delay until 2035, and your report would not be due until May of 2036. So 2 are delays, 1 is a completely different pathway. So the accelerator kind of comes in and telling you where you fall in these and what the requirements exactly are for your building. The prescriptive measures that I mentioned, they vary a little bit based on what kind of system you have. Like some systems just don't have certain features that can be addressed with these 13, but these are the 13 big ones. If you get all of these done by the end of the year, or you can there are options for extension if this work is like in progress. Get these done, you're good to go, one-time report. For affordable housing. Definitely to incentive offerings. This will be quick. I don't have too many slides left. I'm talking a ton. Essentially, there are a lot of state utility incentive programs, multifamily energy efficiency, I like to refer to as kind of a catch-all. There's a lot of retrofits and different things available. Pipe insulation is in there, a new boiler is in there. It's just sort of a catch-all for kind of all these things that ComEd offers for multifamily. There also is an affordable kind of sister program to that that's sponsored by the state. It's a very similar kind of catch-all situation. There are some free measures included in that as well, in-unit LED swap outs, in-unit water conservation options. And for affordable buildings, there is air sealing, I believe. I need to double check on that because I don't know if maybe not, but if you talk to us, we'll let you know exactly what it's eligible for. You guys are national grid territory, so don't worry about that. The state, NYSERDA, is the Energy Research Development Authority. They sponsor or put out a lot of these incentive programs. I just mentioned the Affordable Multifamily Program, the FlexTech program, and Green Jobs Green New York program are both for energy audits and energy studies. So let's say you do need to get a decarbonization plan for 87 or 97 or whatever it is. They'll cover 50% of it for market rate. It's a cost share program, 50% for market rate, 75% for affordable. So this is a great program. And then kind of what comes out of the energy audit is like everything that you have and kind of a checklist of what you can do to improve the efficiency in your building.
And you can double dip.
These apply
Yeah,
to different things.
NYSERDA and Con Edison, I think you can double dip.
Oh, sorry, yes.
I mean, in terms of,
So
yeah,
FlexTech applies, so they kind of apply to different things. FlexTech is just the study and like
Mhm.
kind of those soft costs.
Mhm.
Multifamily program is like for the actual products and installation costs. So they cover slightly different things, but yeah, you could use both for one project. Or what in your case, like what you consider to be one project, but they don't. So, and then low carbon pathways and clean heat are both kind of for electrification. Electrification readiness, if that's something that you're interested in. Fortunately, you cannot double dip with clean heat anymore, which is very sad news for me. Not for me, for the buildings. But very sad for me to say. And so that's if you're interested in heat pumps for hot water heaters. Low carbon pathways also covers dryers and some appliances.
so the grant for this one is no longer available?
Sorry.
The grant is no longer available?
So you used to be able to double dip
Uh-huh,
with these two,
uh-huh,
low carbon pathways and clean heat, but they recently said you can't do that anymore.
okay.
Which
And are those grants on rolling basis or there is a debt?
most of them are on a rolling basis.
Okay.
I think all of these are,
Mhm.
that are on the screen. And the incentives do change from year to year. So like if I send you something from right now, it may change at the beginning of 2025.
Hmm.
We'll see. So most of them don't change, but there's like slight differences. But yeah, that's something to consider as we're going to the end of the year. Financing assistance, we have a financing team, which is not me, so I'm sorry, I'm not the expert on this right at this moment. But this kind of gives you. This is our financing toolkit that kind of gives you a good idea of what type of financing is available if you need loan assistance or anything like that. There's PACE financing, which is like a very unique program that we specialize in, that you pay back the loan as part of your property tax bill. Again, I'm not the expert in this, but it's a different kind of mechanism than a traditional loan program. If you have questions, you can try to ask me or you can send them to the financing team. And this is typically what they do. So once you have proposals in the scope of work, they'll take a look at it and see what your options are based on your building type and, you know, sort of the financing, the accounting side of things. They can help you out with that. And then it goes through, you know, they review all the options. Again, we are objective in this as well. So we meet with the capital providers, they review the offers, and, you know, as this project goes through, we like to keep in touch. I'm done. So this is a QR code to, I believe, like a form that you can fill out if you'd like to get in contact with us. You can also just email us. I also have my card. If you have any questions for me.
Yeah, we're also gonna put a link in the minutes so that people can also use that to reach out to you. So you'll forward this presentation to us because it's gonna,
Yeah.
there's a lot of information there.
There
and
is.
It we need more time to review it, I think. Let me just begin if it's okay. With just a couple of questions. You said early on that our community was lagging behind the rest of the city in terms of compliance. I was actually impressed to see that maybe we had, I think 77% in compliance with the 24, 29 limits at this point. But in view of the fact that the rest of the city isn't, I guess, 89%. Here, these are the numbers. Is any special outreach being done to the landlords in our community so that they are made aware of these of what they have to comply with? I mean, as OC said before, I have to agree with her. I got to believe that most landlords are probably not aware of these laws and what they have to do, apart from the fact that they might be reluctant to comply with them. So, are you guys doing some outreach to the landlords?
Yeah, so we do as much as we can. There is a kind of a lack of information available, contact information for us or DOB. We have been working with HPD to send out information to their list. I don't know, yeah, HPD can be slow sometimes. But we do as much outreach as we can when we have the information to do so. And people are also welcome to like refer their buildings to this. So like if you want to give me your building owner's number or property owners, we do a lot of outreach. We do what we can.
But tenants can do that, right? Tenants can reach out and say, they want to make sure that their building is in compliance.
Yeah, I work with a lot of co-op boards, condo boards as well. And sometimes, they end up doing a lot of the legwork and the property manager is just like, okay,
Right.
let me send that invoice.
Well, the co-op people are basically the owners,
Right.
but I'm wondering whether or not there's any role to play for the rent regulated tenants.
That unfortunately, all of this work at the end of the day comes down to the owners.
Yeah.
So right in co-op boards, there's more decision-making power than.
No,
in a
no, sure.
building.
But
So,
if a rent regulated tenant wants to make sure that there aren't, there isn't pollution coming out of their building, they have an interest in that. Maybe they would want to give you the information and ask you to reach out to their landlord.
yeah, they're welcome to do that. You can refer your building to us.
Okay.
We'll pretty much, if you want to reach out to us and get the information, we will talk to you.
Okay.
Somebody did yell at me the other day, like, how do you know they're not a fraud? And I was like, I don't know why you would care about some random building, but that's just me. And we use only publicly available information. So we're not giving away like secrets of any kind. We just kind of compile it so that you have it all. So if you're a renter and you want to just get more information on this, we're happy to talk to you.
All right, very good. And let me just ask one other question. The requirement for carbon neutrality by 2050. Does that mean that number 2 oil is also being phased out at that point?
Theoretically, yes. They have
Yes.
nothing to do date for that. Theoretically, right, natural gas would be gone by 2050. If we would all, so the kind of the goal for that is that all buildings would be electrified.
Right.
Whether or not that's actually gonna happen, I can't say,
But,
we'll see.
okay, but number two, oil is supposed to be phased out.
Yes.
Yes.
We don't have an exact date for that yet.
Okay.
When we do, 2030 is a pretty good guess, but no, for sure.
But no, not on number two.
By number two, they'll probably like announce it in 2030 or it'll be the next round. I'm not sure.
Okay,
I don't have the insider info on that one, but
No,
yeah,
I-
by 2050.
it should be gone.
So long-term planning is kind of,
You're suggesting the date could be moved up. But at this point, the date is, the phase out date is 2050.
I think it will likely be before that.
Okay,
But full electrification by 2050 is kind of the broad goal.
okay,
So at some point, theoretically, natural gas could put fuel oil number two.
Right.
going. And we're all on heat pumps and the grid works and everybody's happy. So we'll see what happens. But really, we're telling people kind of just think out for your plans, go out to like 2035. Right
okay.
now, like think that far ahead, because that's more like in stone. And other things may fluctuate or may change.
All right, very good. Let me turn it over to Mario.
Sure, thanks, Steve. Just wanting to build a little bit on the outreach question. I know you talked about kind of other, working with other city agencies. We also heard you mention that you met with our council woman a couple of months ago. Any other kind of community-based organizations or other types of outreach that your team has done or looking to do moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I believe this area, if I'm not mistaken, is part of our neighborhood focus track, which is kind of a specialized track that we have that I am also on, which is why I'm here. That we like reach out to specifically. So we've definitely done outreach to Upper Manhattan, in the past. As like a focused campaign. That was before I started, so it was maybe like 2 years ago. But in terms of other community-based organization, we work with mostly DOB. DOB's been doing a lot of outreach as well to buildings that are over their 2024 limits. They've been doing a lot of outreach for that because they have the information that we do not have, impacting them with us. But off the top of my head, I can't think of any other organizations specifically in this area that we've been working with. We're happy to work with you guys.
Well, I think we would like to be able to work with you.
Yeah.
I should mention, by the way, that we are joined by Kiana Diaz, a staff member for Councilmember De La Rosa.
Oh, great.
Hello, everybody. Jamila's also on.
It's Jamila?
Jamila's also on, I think,
Yeah.
probably in the attendee section. I have to come over.
Jamila is passing herself off as Kiana?
No,
Yeah.
she's on that indeed.
Kiana's on, but Jamila is also on.
Oh, they're
so
both on. Oh, hold on.
Right there.
Jamila might be there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and I remember you had a question about like Spanish resources and interpreters. We have a lot of our one pagers are available in Spanish. At the Carmen de la Rosa event, we did have a Spanish interpreter present. We do have a couple Spanish speaking account managers, so if you wanted a presentation like specifically in Spanish or someone available, we would kind of have to work around their schedule. I do not speak Spanish. So it's possible, but we kind of have to arrange that either with the city to get an interpreter or with the specific account managers.
Nothing else from Steve.
All right. Any other questions?
I do have a few, but I'll be last.
Well,
Online and see.
anybody on the remote? Jamila or Kiana, did you guys have anything you wanted to say?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. No, I was just going to mention that we did do a community event, a community session with for the local law 97. We had not great turnout, but we shared it with all the landlords. So we had an art mailing list, and so did HPD and the local law 17. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I was coincidentally also at that presentation, which I
Okay.
didn't realize when I arranged you guys. I was like, why was I just over there?
Yeah.
I wasn't the presenter, but I was there.
And when was that?
June-ish.
Oh, June-ish? Okay.
June, whenever I'm
Uh,
on vacation.
All right. Funny, you don't look June-ish.
Yeah.
So I think that was Jamila who just spoke.
Mhm.
All right, very good.
one quick question.
Yeah,
Uh,
is that
Indiana.
Indiana, go ahead.
Thank you. I was curious about outreach in other languages. Are you having sessions for, in any other languages for landlords who, or I guess
Yeah,
building
so
owners?
as I mentioned, we're kind of limited in that we're able to bring in the city's interpreters, but that of course presentation is in English and they'd be interpreting on the side. We don't have a ton of account managers that speak other languages, as far as I'm aware. I know we have a couple who speak Spanish, maybe a couple who speak Chinese. But beyond that, I'm not too sure. That would just kind of be like us internally using our resources. All of our like paper, like handouts and everything are available in multiple languages as is required by the city. But in terms of presentations, we do have a little bit of a gap there that we're looking to fill.
And do you have a sense of, maybe like the percentage of building owners who might benefit from having these materials available or these presentations available in other languages?
Yeah, I don't have like a number offhand. I'm sorry about that.
Why, 32% of the buildings, right?
Well, yeah,
Because
but,
if only
yeah,
68
yeah, but we, how would we know what languages they speak?
census.
The landlords?
We can access like name level
Yeah,
data,
I don't know.
to like.
I think Spanish and Russian
Mhm.
probably, and I'm not sure which.
That's what I was
other-
thinking, Russian too,
Yeah,
That's good.
Spanish and Russian for sure.
possibly some Yiddish outreach.
Oh, that would be difficult. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But you know something, I don't know if it's currently true, but there was a time when the Jewish Community Council in Washington Heights had a pretty active connection
Mhm.
with landlords in the community. We might, I think I'm gonna ask you reach out to them and see if they want to help out with this effort.
Okay, sure. I don't think we have a Yiddish account manager, like a account manager that speaks Yiddish that I know
Well,
of.
no, but they would.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if they're, willing to take.
If it's, I'm not sure it's absolutely.
Interpreting burden, but
Yeah, I'm not sure, frankly, that it's absolutely necessary. I don't know how many landlords only speak Yiddish at this point in time, but it might be a good, they might be a good resource to help us reach some landlords.
yeah, sure, I'd be.
There's
yeah.
also compliance with like some of the city's requirements, like language access requirements. A lot of the, legislation requires organizations that deal or city agencies that provide services, maybe a different kind of service, but I think it's worth exploring, right? If we're going to have these
Right.
long-term projects that will,
Right.
like we're talking about 10 at least years in the future, I think it's worth exploring that from like the onset. How do we build out additional access?
Yeah, like I said.
No,
all of our-
it's a very good question.
Yeah, all of our resources are available in multiple languages,
Right.
As the city requires, and we are able to get city hired interpreters,
Right.
for presentations like this if necessary.
All right. I may be speaking out of turn, but I think I would like to have you come back every year. Really to get.
Give us updates.
To get updates, to get a sense of how well our community is complying with the law. This could, because this is not just a housing matter, it's it's a public health matter, it's an environmental justice issue. This is a very significant effort being made by the city to eliminate carbon emissions.
Yeah, I think it's first compliance here.
yeah.
I'm sure they're gonna,
Yeah.
it's not gonna go without a hitch.
No.
So I'm sure there may be some change. They're not big changes,
Right.
but it may pivot on something.
No, but I tell you, I am pleasantly surprised at the numbers as high as 77 in this community. I was prepared for something drastically lower.
Right.
So,
But what's interesting here is
yeah.
I think this 77% is only considering the 254 as
Yes.
the market rate.
R-
So there are there's a large percentage of affordable buildings.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is only the market rate?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
Okay.
okay. Oh, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
affordable buildings
Oh.
essentially,
Oh,
I don't want to say like their emissions rate doesn't really, like they're not working on the same compliance period.
yeah, no.
Timeline as the market rate buildings, so
oh.
this is referring to market rate buildings. So
Oh.
really there's about 50 that aren't in compliance, but still, a
Yeah,
lot.
okay, but those are market rate buildings.
Yes.
And because, the large majority of our buildings are rent regulated.
I see.
Yeah,
We have this, I don't know if you guys can see this down here, but
Yeah,
this thing is way high, it's like twice. as
yeah, oh,
much
yeah,
As that.
Yeah.
So they're operating on the, so this Article 321 that I mentioned that I can show again,
yeah,
this might be a little better than that blurry graphic. There are certain requirements that are met, even if you only have 1 or 2 rent regulated units, there is a delay. So most of the landlords probably will be happy for that.
so where are we in terms of the rent regulated buildings? What percentage?
That's
What
hard to
percent?
know for sure,
That's hard to know?
because nobody's submitted a report yet, so we don't
Oh,
know, like, we
oh.
can estimate, right,
Oh.
based on the market rate compliance periods. But it's not really helpful in the
Yeah.
same way, because like the amount of PECMs that are done. For example, we don't know without asking the building owners.
But you sure have data from local law 84 that means submitted for
Yeah,
like 10,
so-
a little over 10 years now. So how, I mean, that will give you a clue of what's going on compliance for local law 97. So what percentage, or maybe a number of buildings comply with local law 84?
So local 84 really just requires that you turn something in.
Right.
Yeah,
So I mean, I don't have that data, that's against Sustainability Help Center
yeah,
question, but for
Okay.
97, I think the reason we differentiate this is because of the way affordable housing, the pathway is split up. So so pretty much like the 2030 threshold matters, which, like, if you're below the 2030 threshold today, as an affordable housing building, you submit an attestation that does that. Most buildings, as we see here, like the vast majority of buildings are not in that compliance. So the majority of affordable housing buildings are doing those 13 PECMs that I mentioned. And that comes down, and that's, let me go back to that list really quick. Like these, we don't know if they're done unless someone tells us, because it's like pipe insulation, like your super just kind of does that sometimes. Like it's like things that we don't have data on exactly, like the specific measures. So that's where the article comes in and like kind of does like a mini audit to be like, okay, you have steam traps, or 4 of your steam traps are broken, let's fix them, check. And so once these 13 are done, your actual emissions amount doesn't matter. Like once these are done, they are done, you submit your report that they are done. You still need to submit the report that shows what your emissions are, just kind of to check that box as well. But once you've done these 13 and submitted your report that says that you've done so, that is your one-time report, and you are done with local 197 for the foreseeable while.
So I think one thing to highlight is the grades. That if you do a project, you get a better grade. Now, you walk around our neighborhood with buildings I'm living in a co-op, which is from 1939, right? And we're having A's, okay? We're not on natural gas, by the way, but we are number 2. But I see buildings that are 15 years old, buildings that are grade D, 60 something, 40 something, and I was like, they are. So it's a combination of we don't know that exists, with we don't care, with we're not paying fine yet, so why would we
Yeah.
bother?
The
So-
grades do measure something different, like they measure, it's a different metric than local 197.
Right, and this was one of my questions. I would love to know the formula, because what we need all here in the room and everyone else need to understand it is if my building is an A, okay, and your building is a B, my grade, the number grade, is actually lower than what it should be, because we are living in the same area and the grade is being calculated according to all the buildings in specific area. So there is a formula for this. I would love to know what the formula is, because that is actually dragging my grade down because your building grade is down. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, so this is something that I'm really having grudges about that. However, I don't know what the formula is, and it will be really nice to know.
So I didn't find like the exact form, like.
It's okay, I mean, like,
It's
for
like proprietary to Energy Star. Oh, my screen is not sharing, sorry, like not sharing what I wanted to share.
And the problem, and I was gonna, while you're looking, we're not really, okay. We have very high asthma rate in our district,
Mhm.
not far lower, not much lower than the South Bronx. And you look at the, Highway 95, it's right crossing our district and everything around. Okay, so I think specifically this area, should be something to, an area that should be like get should be worked on like right away because of the
Yeah.
asthma rates. Of course, there are asthma rates throughout the city, but I think it's something that you guys can look into and just like really call those landlords and said, hey, this program is available, grant is available, and so forth.
Yeah, that's, I think, I didn't see that question earlier. I think that's slightly out of our scope. That's kind of more of a DEP. It depends on what exactly you mean, because a lot of the asthma existing programs like Greening a Block or green infrastructure programs, which we have some information on, but it's not, because like a lot of the pollution from energy usage is kind of not at the building itself, except the burning oil right there.
Right.
It's like further back.
Right.
So we do emphasize that in like specific like fuel oil outreach, but we don't do like we wouldn't be able to come out and like put green infrastructure on buildings.
No, that I understand, but
Okay,
is there something like Greening a Block that is available in our area?
I think
No.
DEP has some green infrastructure programs that I can share, so
Okay.
like, the street trees, there are green roof incentives, those things help, things like that.
Okay.
So I don't know how active those programs are, because I just happen to do green infrastructure research college, so I feel the wealth of information. But DEP should have some information on that, and I can look into that as well and share it with you.
Okay.
The street trees are done by the Parks Department,
Yeah.
for which I work. But okay, are there any other questions?
I do
Um,
have one more question.
Oh, is that Indiana?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I was also wondering, what kind of transparency is available to the public for what steps buildings have taken? Where, like, what, is there any kind of like a map of our district, let's say, where we can look at each individual building that is subject to the law and what steps, if any, they've taken to comply?
Yes, I'm answering your question right now.
Oh, another good question.
Thank you.
So we have this tool, which I wish I could make bigger, but essentially, let's zoom in on this area. So this breaks down local law 97 fine status. So let me zoom in. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me look, I'll just look for the address. What is the address of this building again? 530.
Oh, that's Columbia. It's not probably not going to show you much, but let's see.
It's just to get into the area.
Yeah, yeah,
To
yeah.
zoom in. So like the color of the lot, we work on a lot level, and so does local 97. Well, if they're planning to work on a bin level, that's complicated. If there's multiple buildings in a lot, please call us. Because it gets very confusing. But you can see like fines estimated to start in 2024. We're seeing that potentially on this building. Let somebody know.
Mhm.
But like the gray compliance not required, so those are too small or they're publicly owned. We're seeing, no fines in 2024, but there are some in 2030. This is a publicly available tool. There is also, if you want to check specific buildings,
Okay.
you can use that tool. There is also this.
But with respect to Indiana's question, you don't really have the ability to delve down into the actual work that was done in these buildings.
If you want to go down the rabbit hole of DOB permits,
Oh, yeah,
that,
Yeah,
you're
that's it, yeah.
welcome to.
right, yeah,
Um,
right,
But that's kind of, I think, would be the best place to find that information is like DOB permits. You can kind of see like
Right.
other work,
right. What did they,
elevator work.
what did they apply for?
Yeah, so that's kind of the best I have there,
Okay.
without, actually just asking the property manager. But our tool kind of breaks down the relevant information. So like this building, I guess, is under 50,000 square feet, so we don't have 87 data here. This is looking at potential fines. Is it on the covered buildings list? This is also useful if you're not sure what pathway your building will fall on. You can use the DOB's covered buildings lists. And if it's on a covered buildings list that you think it should not be on, there's instructions to correct that. It's literally just an email, it's a very specific email.
Yeah.
That you have to send, and we have those instructions that we can share with you. So like, and this also highlights if it's one of the alternate compliance pathways, so whether that's a delay or Article 321.
All right, so according to this, then, the building that we're in right now is not out of compliance, right?
So technically it is because it's over its threshold for 2024. It's estimated to be. This is very small.
That it's not this building is not in compliance? Well, okay,
With 97. It's estimated to be out of compliance in 2024 because it would be over the threshold. And let me see if I can.
All right, well, we're gonna have to talk this.
Okay, it's literally $500, which is like 2 tons of CO2. So frankly, just based on random year, like the year kind of variation, considering it's 8 degrees right now. But let me pull it up in another fun tool that I would like to pull up. I don't really need the L for this building, but let's see if this comes up. If this doesn't come up, I'll just bring it up. Okay, I'll bring up this building. Not necessarily reflected, but this is a bad example. This is probably wrong, but this is a tool that you can plug in your address into, or building block lot is a little more foolproof because, you know, sometimes there's alternate addresses. But this shows the threshold. This orange line is the threshold based on the building type and what is expected, based on your building type and the square footage. And then you can kind of see where your building stands based on the benchmarking data that you've submitted. So these are estimates, right? Like I said, it can vary from year to year. But this is like a good way to kind of see like, okay, I'm way below my 2024 to 2029 limit. I just have to submit the reports. I don't have to do any work right now. Or if you see like you're $10,000 over in 2030, you might be like, oh, let me start thinking about heat pumps or switching to natural gas or something like that. So this is helpful. We don't use the year 2020 for data because that's, let me see if I can find a better example. Okay, I don't know why this one's usage is so low, but typically it's usually more like here and here given. And you can also look at what the breakdowns are. So like, since this building uses district steam and that's contributing this much to that carbon emission amount, electricity is this much. The reason this drops is they expect emissions coming from electricity usage to drop by half based on the greening of the grid. So this is just kind of a gimme drop that they're giving people for 50% of the emissions for electricity. And so if you fuel L number 2, you'll probably see like, you know, a large share of it is, I think the color they use is purple. And so you can kind of see what's the highest contributor.
Well, if you electrify a building tomorrow morning, and let's say I'm the building across the street from you and I will electrify in 4 years, there is a possibility that Con Edison will tell me, well, we can't electrify. Okay. So the problem with that is then, why am I paying the fine after 2030 if I want to electrify, but Con Edison cannot give me enough juice?
Yeah.
This is up, okay, because this is up to the city and Con Edison and whatever, you know, going on upstate for how the electricity is being produced. So what's the answer for that?
You know, that does happen a lot. And there is, since local law 97 hasn't actually like, people aren't submitting compliance reports yet, there hasn't been too much talk about it. And kind of just like, we're gonna green the grid. We're gonna have more load. We will, when everybody's doing it, which is now. So, or people are starting to do it. So I don't really know, can't speak for Con Ed. But there are, like I mentioned, that good faith effort. There are a couple different like pathways there other than the decarbonization plan. So that's like showing like, we have a load letter from Con Ed that says we can't do it. We have permits with DOB that we're in the process of doing it. For affordable buildings, there's opportunities to get like extensions and there's a couple alternative pathways. So they're doing their best to like not have people pay the fines. That's not the goal of this, right? The goal is to truly reduce carbon emissions. So if you're in like a sticky situation like that, that's a good time to reach out to us as well, because we can contact DOB, we can go through, you know, what your options are.
All right, so I think that's a reasonably good note to end on.
Okay.
Because we do have other business
Yeah,
on our
sorry.
agendas.
So much time.
And I appreciate the presentation and I'm warning you that we probably will invite you back
Oh,
to get
you're
it.
welcome to. I don't live too far. I'm happy to come up.
To get it up. Okay, very good. All right.
And
But
I-
maybe if there is an update, if there are update to the laws and rules before next year that will come to visit
Yeah,
us,
so
maybe
you're
we
like-
can,
sorry, you're on our mailing list now.
Yeah.
Whether you
Okay.
like it or not. So when there are updates, we usually like send out batch emails.
Very good.
Like, for example, like they released the Article 320 info guide. which has a lot of the information that people have been waiting for. And so once that came out, we sent a big email that was like,
Right.
hey, it came out, look at it, reach out if you have any questions. So you'll be getting emails from us.
Okay, and put Mario,
You're signing me up, no, it's okay. I was gonna say, I'll give you my
Yes.
information.
yeah,
Sign me
yeah,
up.
put Mario on the
Yeah, I
list.
also have my card, if anyone
All right,
needs it or wants it or has a question or, I don't know, wants to be on our mailing list.
all right. All right, so the two committees are now gonna split apart.
Yep. Can
I-
we just let for our, there's a couple of housing people online, if you could just let them know to join the housing link now.
Okay, Indiana and Tanisha, did you hear that?
And,
I did.
yeah, Jamila,
Oh,
they can
but
join the housing.
the Keanu and Jamila are going over to housing?
Yep.
We don't, we don't get to share them, we don't get to keep one of them and the other one can go over to housing?
I don't know.
I mean, you got.
Steve, we get it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Thank
know.
you.
Why should we,
Anyone need a card? I have like 100 here.
pick a card, any card.
Any card.
Any card, pick a
I'll
card.
have one.
They all are the same.
Thank you.
Unless I stole
Thank you
somebody
so
else.
much.
Yes, thank you all. Thank
Okay,
you for
thank you.
attending this.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Best of luck with your science journeys.
Thank you for having us.
All right, you can come back anytime.
Mhm.
All right, so we're gonna move our agenda to Health and Environment Committee meeting. Next up is my brief report about the status of COVID-19.
Thank you.
So according to the latest Department of Health statistics as of today, we're actually doing fairly well in terms of hospitalizations. In zip code 32, hospitalizations were down to 7.9 per 100,000 for the 28-day period ending October 24th. So that zip code is ranked as number 30 among the 177 throughout the city. And the other three zip codes had no measurable hospitalization rate at all, which I don't think I've ever seen before. So they were all ranked, they were all given a rank which I think just depended upon their number. So I don't know how meaningful it is, but zip code 33 was ranked as number 87. Zip code 40 is number 93. Zip code 34 is number 88. So since we last met on October the 10th, there were 53 new COVID cases in our district, and thankfully no more deaths. Maybe that's 2 months in a row now that we haven't suffered any deaths from COVID-19. So let me now turn it over to Pauline Ferranti, our borough liaison from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Pauline, do you have anything? Looks like you've already prepared something for us. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. So just wanted to pull up our weekly influenza and RSV surveillance summary page so that anyone who's interested can peruse. Since October, we started taking that data again. So as of October 19th, these were the highlights. You can see where we are currently, very much like other previous years where it starts off, the season starts off pretty low, but we'll see a spike sometime late November into December. So things are looking pretty good for now. And then we have this week, the most recent report for October 26th, week ending October 26th. So again, we are seeing just a slight uptick in some positive cases. And then, of course, if you want to peruse the entire document, you are free to do that. Other than this information, Steve, you didn't ask for anything else. I don't know if there's any other information the board is interested in learning about or have any questions for me, but I'm happy to take questions now. Thank you.
Yeah, I think on West Nile virus, are we seeing any cases of that?
West Nile, so I'm sorry, I closed out of my screen too soon. But we do have data on West Nile. I believe that tracking is now over since mosquito season ends in October. But let me just pull up the website again. And there is data on West Nile diagnoses, and we also do we have like a little comparative map of previous years as compared to the most recent data. So that's pretty helpful if you're interested in this. So hold on, let me just get to the page and I'll screen share again. Okay. Here we go. So on our website, you can just type in West Nile into the search bar and it'll bring you to this general page, and you can click on summary data and it'll show you how many positive pools there were in the year 2024. So mosquito season is April through October of the
Oh.
year. And then here are all the human cases that were diagnosed, and then they tell you a little bit more. Some people found out they were through blood donation, they had no symptoms at the time, etc. So you know, it's always helpful to go back, and then we have data by year so you can compare. There's this handy multi-tool data summary, so you can see sort of the cases as the years, to compare the years and sort of get that information in a snapshot.
So it looks as though this year might have been fairly mild for West Nile virus.
I mean, I would say, I mean, pretty standard, I would say.
Oh, okay. But only well, only eight cases have been had.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so comparatively, it
Yeah.
seems like it's been pretty okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And has there been a return of the Mpox?
So for Mpox, it is really not a huge concern, but we also have data on that on our website. So we can go into the information here, and then we do have data. It's updated every second Thursday of the month. So as of January of this year, 371 people have been tested positive, and the last month, which, you know, is October, ending October 5th, we had 20 cases. So, I mean, it is a little bit concerning, but it's not something where we were worried about it being widespread throughout the city. And of course, you know, there are vaccines available if you go onto the vaccine finder page. So we highly encourage people who, you know, if they do fall into the categories where you are more susceptible, then we encourage you to go and get the Mpox vaccine. And of course, you know, during the season to get your flu vaccine and COVID shot as well.
Okay. And there is a new variant of COVID-19 around, I believe, which is, yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
mean, I think that, you know, much like the flu, there are going to be new variants constantly as it evolves and changes. So I think, you know, in general, much like the flu shot, the COVID shot is going to cover, hopefully, you know, the strains that they are predicting to exist for the season. So again, we just encourage everyone, you know, obviously speak to your healthcare provider, but we think that, you know, getting your flu shot and your COVID shot will be the best way to protect yourself this flu and COVID season.
All right. Well, I'm assuming that the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene is going to continue to advise people about the need to get vaccinated for these various conditions, even though the message may change on the federal level. Certainly, I think we can count on the New York City Health Department to continue to rely upon science and let people know that vaccines are important, and people should take advantage of them to ward off any of these diseases.
Yes.
Are there any questions?
Any new rabies cases in our district?
I don't believe so, OC, but let me just double check.
Mhm.
And I will let you know. Are you hearing anything about any animals that are in the district that are of concern?
No,
Okay. Let's see.
but every once in a while I see signs in the parks.
Oh, yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I think,
Yeah, which is just, you know, so far, no rabies cases, or at least none worried.
yes. So far,
And- oh, yeah.
there have been no, so it was last updated, the map was last updated. Let me share my screen again. I'm sorry I keep doing this. Very annoying, I'm sure. I apologize.
No, it's not annoying.
So as this map was updated on October 24th, and as of now, no cases in Manhattan. So there was a bat case in the Bronx, a cat, raccoon, bat in Queens, and raccoon and cat on Staten Island.
All right, we'll keep them out of Manhattan.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, very good.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Pauline.
You're welcome.
All right, next, I was hoping that Julio Batista from New York Presbyterian would be joining us, but apparently he has a conflict. He did submit a written report, which indicates in terms of COVID, that the hospital has 20 patients right now in the Milstein building, as well as 3 in the ICU. There are no COVID patients at the Allen Hospital. There are 6 at the Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital, including 2 in the ICU. So they have a total of 5 pretty serious cases in the ICUs at Milstein and the Children's Hospital. With respect to the issue concerning the adult rehab beds, which this committee dealt with a couple of I guess a couple of months ago, we passed a resolution. I've been told that that the hospital has not proceeded to submit an application to the state at this point to have those 16 rehab beds converted into a general medical surgical beds, and that they are actively discussing and evaluating the situation. And I'm told that a decision may be imminent on a recommendation that they're going to make, and inform us shortly of how they're planning to proceed. So on the upside, it looks as though they are they are realizing that their original plan was not feasible and was not widely acceptable, and they are coming up with something else, and we'll just have to stay tuned to see what that is. Next in his report, he mentions that that the hospital is in the process of extending the Breaking Ground contract for another year. This is the program that deals with doing outreach to the homeless in the immediate vicinity of the hospital, as well as inside the hospital itself. And he says here that they would be happy to invite the team back in 2025 to provide an update on their work. And I would
What
be.
kind of program?
They do it's like a street outreach program. They go up to the homeless, offer them services, try to convince them to accept housing, see if there's something they can do to help them out and try to get them off the streets.
Okay,
So
so
and
this is a program that's run by the hospital?
no, it's the hospital has contracted with an outside organization called Breaking Ground. It's
Okay,
a nonprofit that specializes in this kind of homeless outreach work. They also have they also run supportive housing, and it's a well-respected program. And in fact, they asked me to give them a quote commending them for having the program, and for some.
but we're contracted to do it just around the hospital, in the hospital perimeter.
Basically, from 165th to 170th Streets. between Broadway, St. Nicholas and Fort Washington, and as well as in the emergency room and maybe somewhere else within the hospital. But they have
I just wonder if they're already doing that, maybe why they're not expanding it to the other areas where they have clinics. You know, they have facilities like the one on Broadway and Academy, for example, and other, not just, you know,
Yeah.
and why not? I mean, they're already doing
Well,
that, so,
well, that's a good question we could ask.
right, and we
But
should. Yeah.
but obviously you know, okay, that's a good question.
Mhm.
But you know, they have a you know, I don't know how many teams of workers they have. You know, I believe they work in pairs, and so it may not be as productive to send somebody up to Broadway and Academy just to walk around that one block and then come back downtown. But it's a good question we should ask. And why don't, if there's a homeless issue then that we can identify, then we should definitely urge them to send the teams elsewhere to other sites that are within the hospital's purview.
Okay.
Next, he mentions a few events for National Injury Prevention Week on Monday, November the 18th from 2:30. Well, I don't know what this says. There's a typo. 2:30 to sometime at Mitchell Square Park. They're going to be doing safety training, hands-only CPR, and fire prevention. And they have a holiday lighting event planned for Thursday, December 5th from 4:30 to 6:30 at Mitchell Square Park. Oh, this is interesting. Usually they do it opposite the McDonald's in Duarte Square Park. This year they're doing it in Mitchell Square. And they're also doing their annual Thanksgiving food drive at both Milstein and the Allen hospitals. They expect to be able to provide 500 meal bags to community members in need. So that's the Presbyterian report. So now let's turn to our representative from Isabella Geriatric Center, Diane Ashley, Director of Marketing and Communications. Diane.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? I have to call in from a different device. Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, that device is definitely working.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Isabella currently has no residents who have COVID, and we've administered the new COVID vaccine to approximately 58% of our residents already. And no flu, and 72% of our residents have been vaccinated for the flu.
And obviously you're still offering the COVID and the flu vaccines.
We are still in the process of offering both. As we've discussed before, it never quite gets to the number we would like it to be. We'd like it to be 100%, but everybody has free will and gets to decide if they're going to accept the vaccines. But this year so far, we are tracking ahead of last year on the flu vaccine. So very proud of that, but we're at 72% and still going strong and hoping to get more.
All right, very good. Any questions? All right, thank you, Diane. Next is old business. I assume everybody got the report from Ebenezer on the results of the budget rankings done by the board as a whole. I'm actually curious to know how many board members actually participated in that exercise. Maybe we'll find out. But on the capital budget side, our 4 priorities did reasonably well. There were our highest priority, expediting the construction of a new garage for Sanitation District 8, so that its trucks can be relocated from our district, came in as number 12 overall. Providing additional garbage collection trucks and street sweepers for the district came in as number 7. Continuing to replace the old water mains and sewer lines in our community came in at number 8. And installing green infrastructure such as bioswales came in as number 11. On the expense budget side, where we had 9 different priorities, 4 of them came in within the top 15, which is reasonably good. Our top priority, which expanding mental health services and outreach in the community, which in the past has been the board's number 1 priority, has slipped to number 2. Our number 2 priority, increasing substance abuse services in the community, is dropped all the way down to 32. Providing funding to ensure that all local public schools have multi-service health clinics with nurses and social workers came in at number 5. Providing funding for more noise enforcement cameras came in at number 12. Increasing the funding for education and outreach on recycling, reuse, and composting came in at number 31. Increasing services to provide and treat chronic diseases came in at number 20. Increasing trash basket collection on commercial streets with a second shift, and increasing the number of trash baskets on the streets throughout the community came in at number 13. Increasing HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment services came in at number 41, and increasing pest control efforts to eliminate rats came in at number 25.
And then there is some ranking for what the public.
I don't understand what that means, what this is. How could you have like 2 different sets of rankings?
It's some included it as part of the 50 or 45.
No, but this is a separate list with a separate,
I don't think the rankings are separate here.
well, this is, if you look at the expense budget,
Yeah,
it's like ranked, like 1 to 12. And you already have like 1 to 12 on the main list.
are you sure that's how it is?
Yeah, I noticed the same thing actually. So some of them have the same ranking, so it has to be separate.
Yeah, but how can we have 2 separate lists for the expense budget and 2 separate lists for the capital budget? I don't understand how this is gonna work. There's supposed to be 1 overall list for each
Right.
for each of the 2 budgets.
But there was something interesting in the capital budget
Um,
from the public.
from the public.
Mhm.
Well, is this on the capital side, veterinary clinic for low income
Mhm.
pet guardians?
Yes,
It's the guardians that need the clinic,
no, the pets.
the pets, yeah. Yeah, so that came in number 9 on this other list. I have to ask Ebenezer how this is being dealt with.
There was no explanation. I don't think it's a separate list. Do you see like duplication of numbers, like
Yeah.
ranking?
Sure.
Okay, so I didn't get it that way, but okay.
Yeah, like number 9 on the main list
Mhm.
is funding to expand daycare centers.
I don't know.
At
Sorry.
a glance, I feel like that's additional items submitted by the public that are ranked in their own category.
Exactly,
Just things
yeah.
for us to be aware of more than anything else. But
Yeah, so,
I haven't seen this yet, so I don't know.
yeah, I've never seen anything like this. So,
Okay, so I don't know.
Okay.
There was no explanation, so.
yeah. All right, well, we'll have to find out how this is gonna be,
Mhm.
how this is gonna be submitted to OMB. Because I'm sure OMB is only expecting to see 1 list. All right, so there are no updated statistics for street and sidewalk cleanliness ratings or on recycling. I did distribute to everybody the latest report from DEP about service inquiries and complaints from our district for the month of October. The number 1 complaint in October, construction before and after hours, 46 complaints, hydrant running, 39 complaints, and a request for lead kits, I guess for people to test their water, 26 complaints, 26 inquiries, 21 complaints about dirty water, and noise from construction equipment, another 17. And on and on. We get each month, we get the top 30 complaints from people in our district. That's it for old business. Is there any other old business?
I have a question about related to sidewalk cleanliness. I don't know if it's actually under new business or related to that, but
Go ahead.
okay, thank you. Sonia, who was actually here earlier tonight with the with Housing and Human Services, brought up yesterday at public safety. And I mentioned I would bring it up here tonight that there's an issue outside a building on 181st. I can't remember the address off the top of my head. I'll need to look at it, but that in that area, there's this frequent instances of garbage being put out appropriately, and then in the morning time having been scattered across the sidewalk, creating a navigational hazard, not to mention like that's just not good to have trash scattered. So Tony and I were discussing last night, if that's a persistent problem, how should that be addressed, beyond calling 311, which I think is helpful, but like if there's an issue with trash on the sidewalks in areas repeatedly, like how should that be looked into, I guess is the question that I have.
So in other words,
Just wanted to quickly add that that's also an issue on 165th Street between Broadway and St. Nicholas. I've seen that happen several times right next to Chase Bank. So thanks for bringing that up, Jacob.
I suspect it's an issue in a lot of places, because we're talking about people, the supers put out the trash, and then somebody comes along maybe to go through it and looking for bottles and other things, and then throws it all over the place. And so by the morning, it's a complete mess and unsightly and a problem for pedestrians. I don't know the answer to that question, but it must be something that the sanitation department has had to deal with pretty often.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what time they put the trash bags out?
I don't have any more information
Well,
beyond that, but
they're supposed to be put out this rate,
Container?
like 8 o'clock at night or something.
Mhm.
So what time in the morning are we thinking? Are we saying that that we see the mess on the sidewalk?
I'm not sure. I think I can ask for more information, but
Yeah.
just something that
I-
came up that I was wondering about.
Yeah, I think it's a real headache for the supers and property managers. They may just have to go back out there in the morning and just clean up the place.
So, I mean, the containerization program that is coming into effect, the building are required to they can opt into 2 different programs. One of them is to put the trash out at 6 a.m. if you don't have containers, or put them in containers, and I think it like, I don't know, 8 p.m. or something like that. So if the trash is there throughout the night and it's not in containers, then that's a separate issue to what you are referring to. So they're not in compliance with the new rules or laws for, the trash disposal.
Yeah, very good, OC, because I was gonna bring this up on the new business,
Oh,
but
don't go to the new business just yet.
but this is, it dovetails, because as of November the 12th, next week, there is a new requirement for citywide residential trash containerization for buildings with 1 to 9 units. So they now have to start containerizing all of their trash.
Mhm.
So I forget when the larger buildings have to fall into place
Next year.
at some point next year. So, but that is presumably one of the remedies to the problem that Jacob just brought up.
Does that apply to commercial buildings?
They
No.
separately had to begin containerization at an earlier date.
Oh, okay.
Stores should already be containerizing.
Yeah, but that's the sanitation department doesn't pick up businesses,
Right,
right? So
right, but
that's,
they still had the authority to require that that commercial trash be containerized.
right.
And actually, there was a new in yesterday's election. I'm sorry, Tuesday's election. I didn't get too much sleep in the last couple of nights,
Proposal
but,
number two.
right, exactly, and there's proposal number 2, which has really yet to be defined what exactly it means, but presumably it gives the Department of Sanitation more authority over keeping the streets clean and having being able to say more about cleaning different properties. I mean, so it's we need to see the details on what this means.
So you can go to District 9 and see that I have it's a pilot program that's run by the sanitation department.
Right.
And they do have containers outside in some areas, and I heard it's a disaster for a variety of reasons, never mind that they're taking parking spots, but also, trash it's not, it's not, in terms of, the appearance on the street is just terrible. And there's some cars getting crashed into the container, the enclosures. It's something that it's not, in my view, it was not the right solution, but regardless, it's terrible.
But as a precursor to containerization for residences across the board. Although where it was done, I think in District 9, just to the south of us, I think it was mostly in the pictures I saw showed like in the brownstone sections in the 140s. I don't know if it was being done for larger multifamily buildings.
No, probably not yet, but it's coming, and I
Yeah,
think it's a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
All
a
right.
whole other thing.
All right, did you have something else for old business?
Yes, composting. So, New York City Department of Sanitation is giving out 1 compost container per building, regardless of I'm talking about the brown bins.
I don't think they're doing it. I think there was a cutoff, and I think you had to request it by a certain date.
You have to request and you get only 1.
Yeah.
So if your building has like 80 apartments, for example, you rely on 1 container unless you purchase more. So there is not much incentive at this point to compost if you're not getting more than 1 bin per 80 apartments on your property. So I think we should ask, or I don't know, get some answers from Department of Sanitation, why, especially for us in our district, to give out more containers. You want to encourage people to compost. Landlords are not going to go and buy, okay, so that is a problem that needs to be addressed. Can we have sanitation
Yeah.
coming to talk to us about this? Because,
Well, I did try to get them to come here to talk about composting, and instead they had somebody, I believe, speak at the last general meeting. So I don't know. I can try again because I have my own questions about how composting is supposed to work.
and people they have questions about plastic bags. You can put your compost material in a plastic bag and then put it in the
Yeah.
container.
Yeah.
Look, how is plastic bag is being composted when it's not
Yeah, that's
compostable bags?
yeah.
Right, so the amount, I mean, like you're not encouraging people to compost when you don't
Yeah.
provide with enough containers. That's my
Yeah.
problem.
Well, my issue is, I mean, those are good points, but my thing is you got to make it really easy for people to do this.
Exactly.
This is not, this is not the, well, what's the word? I mean, it can be a little messy, dealing with, food scraps and other things that need to be composted. And if there's only 1 bin in the building or 2 bins and they're in the basement and you have to, in order to dispose of your stuff, you have to go down to the basement every time. You want to give, it's not like, you can't just throw it down the chute on your floor. With recycling materials, you can put it in the,
Compactor room.
and you can put it in the compactor room. In this case, you got to bring it down to the basement, right?
Right.
How do you get it into, how do you put it in the bin?
Right.
You got to go
You have to go
downstairs.
downstairs,
How many people have got that, motivation in order to do that?
especially if
Every-
you have, if it's a no elevator building.
Yeah, well, whatever.
So-
Even if it is an elevator building, every day you're gonna have to dispose of your food scraps by going, you don't want to You may not want to keep it in your house. You may not want to keep it in the refrigerator. You may want to get rid of it, and then you have to go down to the basement every day. I don't know.
It's, okay, we should invite them to come because I mean, that may be the first phase of the program and maybe the
I don't
next
know.
one will be some,
I
but
don't know. Let me look into it.
they have to give
Okay.
more containers for free.
Okay. But also under old business, OC,
Well,
I went
you
to
already
I
answered.
went to the farmer's market
Uh-huh,
on Isham Street last Saturday,
uh-huh.
and guess what I found there?
No,
High
textile.
Oh, what?
Yes, textile, but it's not the real textile recycling. It's
He told me-
usable,
He told me he does recycling.
right, but only reusable items. If you have stuff need to go to scraps and stuff, They're not gonna take-
He told me he separates it out.
and what does it do with the scrap material that can go to, that is not wearable? Or not usable, I should say.
I don't know. I have to go back next Saturday and ask him.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine, all right.
But there's something going on there.
Yes,
And-
it's progress.
And
Maybe in
and the-
20 years, we'll
and-
get what we want.
and the guy had a lot of bags of clothing there.
That's good.
A lot of people were coming
That's
by
good,
and dropping it off.
yeah.
Okay, under new business. You probably have heard that New York City and maybe the state is now under a drought watch. Our reservoirs are running pretty low upstate, and we're being asked to conserve water. There are various things that the mayor is suggesting we can do,
Mm-hmm.
including don't flush the toilet unnecessarily, try to take shorter showers, or in my case, don't take a shower at all.
Mm.
That was a joke.
We know, we know.
That was a joke. Fix leaks, report open fire hydrants to 311 as soon as you notice it. And then people in our district seem to be doing that. Don't run the faucet while brushing your teeth or shaving. Both Richard and I are complying with that requirement, since we don't even shave. That's another joke. Only run full dishwashers and washing machines. I have no problem with that, since I don't have either a dishwasher or a washing machine.
Yeah, I
But,
was wondering, does that offer an option to give us dishwasher?
No, that's
But they're missing
No.
something very big,
what are they missing?
sidewalk washing.
Oh, yeah.
This is something that they need to be addressed in general, not
Yeah.
just because there is like a drought for the last 2 months or so. It's a complete waste of water. Unnecessarily, if you need, you should use a bucket.
Yeah.
This is something that it really need to be addressed to the point of just like give buildings fines if they see, like,
Well, and I think in the past droughts, there were restrictions on doing sidewalk washing. That's a good point.
but it should be in general, because we're living here in the Northeast and everyone think that, oh, we have enough water. No, we don't. Not because of that drought specifically. In general, we have less water than we think.
Okay. Well, we do have a pretty good we do have a pretty good water system.
True, but in terms of
but-
water in general,
Yeah.
if water is coming from somewhere,
Yeah.
we don't have as much of it as we think.
All right, but I like the sidewalk washing idea.
Yes, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal, yeah. All right, any other new business? Hearing none. Are there any announcements? Our next meeting is scheduled for December the 5th. At our December meetings, we normally get a presentation from I forget his name, oh my gosh, from the doctor who runs the comprehensive AIDS clinic at the hospital, to get an update on the HIV/AIDS situation in our community. And we also are due to get a presentation from the New York State Attorney General's office on illegal pesticides that are
Okay,
in our community, that are being sold or distributed in our community.
excellent.
And I think the housing, Mario also suggested that we might want to join them on a presentation concerning mental health. I need to talk to her about that, because maybe I can convince her to move that to January.
But the presenter you just mentioned are coming for December for, pesticides, okay.
Yeah, we
Okay,
already have two speakers and,
great.
so,
I have
apart from-
questions.
and maybe we'll get Julio Batista and Sandra Harris to come back and visit us. All right, so, any other, comments, questions, suggestions? All right, so we're gonna call a halt to this meeting at 8:53 PM.
Wonderful.
Who said that?
Oops, sorry.
Who said that? That was somebody from the peanut gallery. So, so we are adjourning at 8:53, and Carmen, if you want to stay on the line, you're free to do that.
No, I'm all set. Thank you, y'all. Have a
All
wonderful
right.
evening.
All right, take care.
I will miss.
Oh, no, you won't.
So you,
No.
Work obligation that night.
Oh, no.
See your email from Julio to write down
Oh, yeah.
his code.
Yeah, you know what? I should just forward the whole thing to you.
Oh, did you?
You just,
That would be so
Just
much
copy it
easier.
and put
Yes,
it in.
exactly.
I'm
Okay.
I will,
Oh.
these are basically ready, so I'll send them to you now and
oh, yes.
Well,
and I'll ask for a reminder to forward that in there as well or something.
yeah, hold on, let me get this.
Oh, you're just gonna forward it now. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You really know this stuff on local 197.
Yeah, I'm not
Steve,
surprised by that at all, but
I am dealing with that for like over 10 years in my building. I'm on the green committee.
Oh,
And we're dealing with, and we convince, we are, like, one of two buildings that did the first ERP, good night,
take care.
back in 2013. One of two buildings in our district,
Oh.
back in 2013. Did it take 4 years to get the board to do it? Yes. Did we complete the 15% even though half of it were not required by law? Yes. I know a lot of it.
Thank you.
And who does the initial survey to determine the level of emissions from your building?
This is the local law 84, the benchmarking.
But you have to hire
You
someone.
have to hire an engineer or a licensed engineer, architect, and to sign on the study. There are some engineering companies that do that.
So at this point, every building should have done that. Is that correct?
Oh, since 2013. Since 2013, yes.
I-
You have to submit every year.
I can't believe my building would have done that. I can't.
Well, I don't remember how much it cost, but I think it's,
Is it on record somewhere
oh yeah, that's public record.
that they actually submitted these reports?
Yeah. It's all like, you're required to submit. If you don't submit, you pay $500 every quarter in fines.
And these reports are submitted to DOB?
Yes, but it's not really, it'll be, it is DOB. Yes.
All right, I gotta talk to them,
To whom? To you,
to DOB.
why?
'Cause I'd love to see if they can possibly give us a report about
They don't give you a report. Oh, about okay.
the compliance.
Okay. So you do a benchmarking and then they come up with a grade. You get a grade. Your grade needs to be posted in your building. Do you have a grade posted in your building? Somewhere visible in your building? Not at the super shop.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and let me look again.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a big white sign.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Similar to restaurant grade.
yes, yeah.
So once you have that, you submit, somebody submitted,
Somebody did something
Yeah.
to come up with that number.
right? But I'm amazed at the newer building and I look for them. I look for it because the newer building are just like the grades are disaster. You know, the stock building,
Yeah, yeah.
Broadway,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. 63. This building is what, 12 years old?
Maybe not even, no?
Not even. And you know, they changed the panels on one side
Yeah.
a few years ago. Because some pieces start falling apart. I was like, I'm just amazed. But regardless, 63.
Yeah.
And what are they doing about it? Nothing. She was not correct about the natural gas. But
Well, she said natural gas will be phased out.
no, she said natural gas is the best, the next thing after oil, natural gas. The difference between number 2 oil in terms of emissions, number 2 oil and natural gas is very minimal. And the cost to convert, what is your building running on?
2.
Okay, the cost to convert from 4 to 2 is maybe, I don't know, used to be, when we did it, it used to be like $2,000 per boiler.
I'm sorry, is this thing on?
No, you are off, you stopped recording.
Okay.